Dave Chappelle's show in Minneapolis tonight canceled amidst transphobic remarks. Backlash, legendary venue immortalized in Prince's Purple Rain. That venue being First Avenue. I am from Minnesota. First Avenue is indeed a legendary venue.
Have you been there?
I have. Solid Gold there back in 2009. I've been there a couple of times. I was never a live event person for music, so I don't like most of my friends have been.
Really? Because I feel like I miss when live music was like pre-COVID and
yes. But I've been to the Varsity more, which is where the show ended up.
Okay.
So basically, I'm going to read the statement from First Ave before we get started, and then we'll talk about it. So basically, the idea here was that they sold 1,500 tickets in minutes. Like in minutes, sold out, that they added 2 additional shows to the Varsity.
See, this is what I'm thinking. Like, Dave Chappelle, as we know, like sells out anywhere he goes. He's a huge success. So why is it that the staff throwing a fit at the venue matters more than the profit?
Because First Ave is that's activist central out there. That area, that is a very, very progressive part of the city. Uptown next to it is a very, very progressive area. So the ideology.
What do you think keeps a progressive area going, other than the revenue it brings in?
Well, they bring in plenty. Well, like we have statements on the timcast.com article from other music performers who were not happy with it. But we'll read their statement first.
Thank
so it
you.
says the Dave Chappelle show tonight at First Ave has been canceled and is moving to the Varsity Theater. To staff, artists, and our community, we hear you and we are sorry. We know we must hold ourselves to the highest standards, and we know we let you down. We are not just a black box with people in it, and we understand that First Ave is not just a room, but meaningful beyond our walls. The First Avenue team and you have worked hard to make our venues the safest spaces in the country, and we will continue with that mission. We believe in diverse voices and freedom of expression. No, you don't.
That's funny.
No, you don't. You do not believe in that. You believe the opposite of that. You can cloak it in all the flowery language you want. You do not believe in that. And I hate prepared publicist statements that completely contradict their behavior. I will move on and continue. I apologize. So we believe in diverse voices and freedom of artistic expression. But in honoring that, we lost sight of the impact that would have. We know that there are some who would not agree with this decision. You are welcome to send feedback. If you are a ticket holder, look for an email and information on tickets transferring over to the Varsity Theater. So.
You know what this sounds like? It's sorry that we couldn't have this fly under the radar.
Yep.
Why do you book him in the first place? Everyone knows about the controversy.
I couldn't believe
it's not like
you
were unaware.
Yeah.
Have an explanation that actually makes sense. This is just groveling.
A lot of the arguments that I saw were just like, look, this isn't the government. This is a private business. They're allowed to do this. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But the statement directly contradicts the behavior in which they're enacting. Okay?
It's like pretending that they didn't know, which is impossible.
Exactly. They were hoping that they could make all the money and then get
maybe
it over
say
with.
Sorry after.
Exactly. And I want to point out that the comments in the Timcast one. So you see someone wrote this very polite thing on the wall there. That's very tolerant and progressive to type.
For those who are listening on Spotify, it's F. Chappelle.
Yep. And then and somebody wrote "turf suck" in chalk on the ground. And this is from a group. This is from a group
absurd.
called Minnesota MN Uprising, and the language here will make you understand what they're talking about here. So it says, attempting to host transphobe Dave Chappelle when confronted with backlash and employees who put their foot down against bigotry, they passed the show on to the Varsity Theater. Brave comrades showed up in numbers to confront those who put their money behind transphobia. At Varsity Theater plans to host Chappelle for 2 more nights. To the employees of the Varsity Theater, we hope you hold back your labor and strike. Well, on one hand, that is one way to do it, is to tell the people working there to make that choice. But what they're actually saying is, we strongly, hitting a baseball bat, suggest that you strike in the name of our cause. Also, the use of comrade is hilarious.
Oh my gosh! Talk about what is this communist
Yeah.
crap? What did they? Is this vandalism? This F. Chappelle thing?
Yes.
They sprayed it on the wall of the venue.
Looks like
Or they
chalk.
Drew it on. Okay.
Chalk. So,
Okay, so it's chalk. It's not that big of a deal.
Here's another quote. It says, every action of fascism happening in so-called Minneapolis so-called Minneapolis, shares a root of colonial violence, be it from corporations, the pigs, or the city, said MN Uprising in the conclusion to its threads. To the comrades who continue to fight, we love you. Continue to engage in radical action and rage against violence. The time to act is now. So they don't actually care about colonialism. Otherwise, they wouldn't, they don't. They don't care. They care about pushing their message, and they don't care about the fact that Dave Chappelle is an African American. They care about pushing their message. The hypocrisy of it is hilarious to me.
I don't even know if it's about the message, because they are aware that, if he's rejected from one venue, the next venue in line is eager to have him.
But even then, they're pushing. Now they're saying they're going to the workers at the varsity and saying, hold back your labor.
But at some point, they're going to say no. And then what is this about other than you just feeling like you're belonging to some cause?
Yep.
People just have no lives or purposes.
I also want to point out that there's an article here from NPR. It says, Chappelle's transphobic jokes vary from invalidating the existence of trans people to joking about trans women's bodies. In one special, he compared being a transgender to wearing blackface. The comedian continues to defend and perform the material despite years of callouts, insisting that his views on gender are biological facts. If you want to know who's in charge, look at who you're not allowed to criticize. This is the strongest example of that. I don't believe that they're in charge, but I believe that the people who want to push groups like MN Uprising use their the trans people as a shield for their actual views. It's a mask to what they actually believe, which is vaguely communist, vaguely weird. It's Marxist.
I don't
Marxist
even know
beliefs.
if they know anything about Marxism.
So the idea
here,
and then they get pushed back from other, and this is what I'm saying. Other performers started to push back, which says Ian. Thank you. Ian Sutherland says their feelings about their employees' actions haven't changed since the show got canceled. Sutherland is queer and trans and has worked as a sound engineer and stage manager at First Avenue for 3 years. Their band, Birth Order, made an Instagram post on Tuesday condemning the decision to host Chappelle along with musicians Psalm 1, New Primals, Gully Boys, Serious Machine, and others. I just want to know, okay, the idea here is what? That you're not allowed to criticize them because they look at it as what? Punching down, right? You're not allowed to punch down. You can only punch up. Somebody at Dave Chappelle's level of fame and money, if you actually look at class, is always punching down.
Well, they're saying that class isn't the only salient meaning of, who is on the top or bottom of society. So I think if you really want to talk about jokes being funny only if they punch down or only if they punch up, he is punching up because, from our perspective, because he's punching up against the currently acceptable views to have.
Yes.
So the principle does follow, it does apply here. It's just not in the way that they think it does.
And they actually, this article points out that they see it the same way as you and me pointed out, is that they wanted to get away with it and have it be a performative action after the fact, where it says...
They're we didn't know who Dave Chappelle was or what his jokes were. We had no idea. Goswich
said that she thought that First Avenue prioritizing the safety of its staff and guests was what made its venues different from other places, and that she expected better from her workplace. I'm guessing that she's saying that they would
They're
literally
talking about it like they invited some convicted pedophile or like a murderer.
The vigor of his jokes will throw them into a wall. I guess
they'll need fainting couches.
I think, and I'm being hyperbolic here. I understand. It says I think that corporate upper management thinks that they can get away with a lot and write off of performative actions like complaining after the fact, or saying after the fact, we're so sorry, we did not. Yes, they want to be able to do that because they want to both.
All the time.
They want to both do the virtue signaling and make the money.
Yeah, and they said, we're not just a black box that has people in it. Literally, that is what you are, and that's what you make money off of.
Yep. Because they think that we depend upon them for independent music venues, she said. But Minneapolis is ripe with opportunities for independent musicians in small venues. If this is the kind of priority that safety takes in their minds, we don't need them unless they change. What safety?
What do you mean by that?
What about it's unsafe? I understand that I sound like a dick right now, but I'm saying like what's
No, you don't. I mean, it's a valid question.
like
sure.
are they saying because the idea is that his words inspire people who are emboldened by what he says to commit acts of violence against marginalized groups?
Well, as has come up when we've talked about Dave Chappelle in the past, there's been a complete reversal of all the language so that safety and violence only is about words.
Yep.
Your physical actions have nothing to do with it, which is why they've deemed it acceptable to physically assault Dave Chappelle for saying jokes.
So and they're calling it fascism. Him being on that show, that group MN Uprising is calling it an act of fascism. My favorite comparison was somebody pointed out that the First Ave was made famous by Prince. Prince being a gay icon, right? But had comments in 2008 that are still considered off color by today's standards. I think I actually have that here. Like basically, he said
His comment that I read from that article, it's at the very top of it.
Yeah.
It was funny though.
Yes. It says, do you want to read that part?
Sure. He said, God came to earth. He tapped his Bible and said, God came to earth and saw people sticking it wherever and doing it with whatever. And he just cleared it all out. He was like, enough. And this exchange caused one of the last great controversies in his career. The homophobe label attached itself to him, which doesn't, frame the situation correctly. The homophobe label was attached to him actively by groups that wanted to attack him.
Yep.
It's just ironic because he's been also, called a gay icon.
Yes, he is. He's absolutely.
It's like, did you choose that, or did they choose it for you?
Yeah. It says, that's what I'm saying. Like the idea here is like he was just who he was. He just wanted to be who he was, and they through their own projection turned him into an icon based on an ideology that they believed in.
I think like that's kind of why someone like Harry Styles, there's just this unmistakable self-awareness about it that you want to be
that
something. It's a try-hard vibe that like that's why you're not that.
Yep.
He
says, here's how it is. You've got the Republicans, and basically they want to live according to this. He pointed to a Bible. But then there's the problem of interpretation. And you've got some churches, some people basically doing things and saying things, it comes from here, but it doesn't. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got blue. You've got the Democrats, and they're like, you can do whatever you want, gay marriage, whatever, but neither of them is right. It's a very, very neutral stance at best. So he championed First Ave. I don't know if any of you ever saw Purple Rain.
I've never seen it. No.
Okay. So First Ave is famous a lot because of him. So I just find it funny that they pick and choose what rules they follow, who their icons are. And in this case, Chappelle just doesn't fit that mold for them. So he is bashable, and therefore he has to be told to move. And now the Varsity will reap all the rewards for it by hosting all three shows. They sold out 1,500 tickets in less than 5 minutes, and then had to add 2 more shows. Now the Varsity gets all 3 of them. So, I don't know. What are you looking at?
Sorry, I'm looking at Super Chats.
Okay, let's go for it.
Oh, okay. The Kilted Carnivore said, James Bond could be a woman in adult film and be named Jamie Bondage. Free idea.
Oh,
they are about to make that $1 million idea happen.
Send it to pitches at timcast.com.
Send that to pitches at timcast.com. We've got a lot in the works, as Tim loves to say.
Yes, I love the idea that there's just like an abandoned pitches folder somewhere, like just full of ideas because people don't get that we're kind of being sarcastic.
Well, don't tell them. Aaron Larson said, Shaft's blackness is definitely as integral as Bond's Britishness. Bond's whiteness, along with his social class, is integral, but arguably less so, and mostly for class reasons, not race.
That's better phrased than I could have phrased it, so thank you.
Joseph said, the caboose is better anyway, F First Avenue.
Yep.
Gold Mecro said, Anna should have responded to destroy all my enemies. I don't know what that means. Caper2X said, congrats, Ian. No graphene mentioned yet. Oh, darn it.
Oops.
Too bad.
You mentioned it. Ian didn't mention it. Hobbit said, Mary, they are okay with murderers and pedophiles.
Yep.
I mean, yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Clayton Amboy said the communists that got the Chappelle show canceled in Minnesota are the same people who
Yes.
San Diego Comic-Con told to wash their butts before they were allowed to come in.
I don't know if those are exactly the same
I don't know
groups.
if they are.
I'm guessing that the Comic-Con people are too busy focusing on Comic-Con to worry too much about, like, they're too worried about who's performing at Comic-Con and whether they're vaccinated or not. So.
Yeah, and whether they've gotten a PCR test in the last 12 hours.
Exactly.
Goofer Trooper said, speaking of words, Ian, help me bring back groovy.
Ooh, with that shirt, I mean, groovy seems like it's got to be a thing.
Obviously.
Get your groove on.
Yeah.
Jonathan Harris said, Minnesota. So glad my parents had some sense and had me move back home instead of staying out there after college. Beautiful state to visit. Leave before they indoctrinate. Before the indoctrination sets in.
I made it to 35 without being heavily indoctrinated. They're like, yeah, but you don't want a white James Bond, so you've clearly been indoctrinated. I made it out of Minnesota very, very sane. So that's not everybody.
Schools
but
also weren't
Yes.
so crazy back then.
I remember, I remember talking to somebody recently about the Pledge of Allegiance and how, like, we were talking about it is weird on the outset now when you think about the concept of what the Pledge of Allegiance is and talking about schools and how it's so different now that you wouldn't have that. I don't think they have that in public. Do they still have the Pledge of Allegiance in public
I think it
schools?
depends on the state.
Okay.
I bet Hannah Claire would know everything about this.
She
I just
would.
know. She would start going off.
But school was very normal for me. Like, I don't remember any of the heavy indoctrination, but I'm also older. So
It was more about,
That's
for me,
probably why.
I'm 43 now, it was more about interactions with other kids in the school, less about, very little to do with the teachers, very little to do with politics. It was like interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
Nathan Koss said, I don't think the venue fears Dave's speech as violence. They're afraid of the actual real violence the zombie horde of activists threatened them with.
Yeah, did you see that video of the lady who got shot into her apartment by the guy, and then they were like out protesting for him, even though he was trying to. Minnesota,
Yeah.
I did not leave. Like, I love my friends from Minnesota. I love every single one of them. Some of them are okay with me being out here working here. A couple of them not so much happy with the fact that they came out here to work.
Is
But
this the next Portland or like what's happening there?
Minnesota's kind of, well, yeah, Minneapolis is a very, very blue, like the outskirts of Minnesota, like the suburbs and then the smaller cities are fairly red. The Minneapolis, St. Paul a little bit less so except for the arts district, but Minneapolis is very, very progressive, and that's just how it is out there. We good? I don't think we lost the stream.
Okay.
I think we're good. Guys, did we lose the stream? Somebody let me know.
I think we're okay.
Okay. Like, we did not lose, I lost my train of thought. Like, I did not, I don't feel like I got the indoctrination that my friends got out there. But, you know, people make their own choices. That's okay. And I love my friends still, no matter what they believe.
Nathan Settlemeyer said, Ian, can you feel my vibrations? They are saying, I love you. Never change, my dude.
Thanks,
That's
dog.
sweet.
Never change.
That's right. Well, we're always changing, but I'll try and stay stable.
The idea would be that to grow but never change your core values, maybe.
Do not be radically warped.
Exactly.
Goofer Trooper said, Ian, if you say groovy on IRL tonight, I'd be forever in your debt. Also, Mary, I'm loving the look today, and Brett seems like he needs to rant.
I'm not going to be able to say groovy tonight on IRL. I'm not going to be on IRL tonight.
No.
No, I'm taking the night off.
No.
I think Mary's going to be on IRL tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I think Mary has to say groovy.
I finally
then.
know. Now I will say groovy.
You'll have
I
to
will do it.
work it into a sentence.
Say
there
it for
somewhere.
me.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.